To anyone that may be involved, do the right thing. This is an 84-year-old grandma. You still have the time to do the right thing before this becomes a much worse scenario for you.
February 9th, 2026, a shelter-in-place alert goes out to all of the local residents. Not only should you shelter in place, aka get inside and don't go outside, but also you need to urgently turn off the air conditioning in the building for the time being. This is Tucson, Arizona. February 9th, 2026, it's a little hot, a high of 84 that day. It's actually unusually hot for this early on in February, but that is besides the point. The point is, stay inside. Turn off your AC unit. If you really must peek outside your window and you're really unlucky, you've got sweat dripping down your nose and you see this outside, a dark swirling cloud just floating around and it's moving fast, going left, going right. It doesn't really have a strong sense of direction. It looks unpredictable. If you decide to peek open the window to hear what's going on, it's like this humming noise, just like a strong, powerful, overwhelming buzz. It's a bee swarm. There isn't exactly a number count of how many bees there were. It's not like the bees are lining up to a census. However, a typical swarm is documented to have tens of thousands of bees. And these ones in Arizona, they're called killer bees. They tend to be a bit temperamental. They will attack in greater numbers with less provocation. They could just decide that they don't like you, and they will chase you a quarter of a mile if they see you as a threat, even if you're begging them to stop. Also, you have to turn off the AC because bees, when they're looking for a new hive, they love anything that has a little bit of moisture and has vibration, which is an AC unit. So then they'll try to make a hive in your AC unit, and God forbid, those bees get sucked into your house. Now they're pissed off. They just went on a tumultuous, turbulent ride, and they have no escape. Not great things are going to happen in that situation. It's not going to end well for you, the bees, or the AC maintenance guy. Thankfully, the bee swarm in Tucson, Arizona is contained. The shelter in place is removed. That's not the only swarm Tucson is dealing with. On the other side of Tucson, there is a completely different swarm taking place. They call it Tent City. It's like an RV show, but with tents. It almost feels weird because it's like an entire street in a residential neighborhood has been sectioned off. They've got tents lined up. It's like they're trying to sell tents. That's the feeling. It's just tent after tent after tent, all lined up. If someone was in the market for tents, it almost seems like the perfect place to walk down the street and see which tent is holding up in the Arizona sun the best. But Tent City is not a real tent-selling street. It's just a gathering of tents. Dozens of tents set up on the side of a residential road, staying all day, all night. There are people underneath, full makeup, studio lights. Typically next to each tent is an SUV, blacked out windows, one or two people hiding inside away from the heat, someone on a phone call. It seems like all the tents are here for a specific house on the street, and they're all facing it. They're parked as close as they can get to this house, setting up their tents, filming, recording the house. The house itself, from drone footage, looks more like a compound, but that could just be the type of homes in this area. It's Arizona, it's in the mountains, it looks isolated. The house is surrounded by cactuses that are 2 stories tall, and it's all one floor. It's a ranch style home. It looks like a government building. It's just red brick buildings with an arched doorway to the front porch, glass windows all around. Architecturally, I mean, I know nothing, but it does look beautiful. But the tents are not here to appreciate craftsmanship. They're all waiting for something weird to happen. And they don't have to wait that long. A woman arrives in front of the red brick house, and she's just sobbing, breaking down. Another woman claimed that she had a vision of what happened, and it led her to the red brick house. There are 4 to 5 foreign men, and you have to look for a basement.
4 to 5 foreign men?
Yeah. Just what? A vision, just a feeling that she got. And then a woman comes wearing a super short black crop top that just covers her chest, short mini shorts with big black boots. I mean, the outfit is very reminiscent of what Kanye's wife, Bianca Censori, would wear. She's seen taking photos, posing in front of the tents outside of this big red brick house. Some people are shouting at her from the tents, "Embarrassing!" And she's flicking them off. She's like posing. She's having a desert photo shoot in front of the tents, in front of the house. It's just a mess over in Tent City. That, of course, mixed with the constant presence of SUVs with tinted windows and yellow do not cross tape that keeps going up and down, taken up, taken down, taken up, taken down. There's helicopters circling this red brick house. There are people camping out in the trees like they're practicing guerrilla warfare, but all they have is a super zoom lens camera in their hands and they're taking pictures. Everybody's in a tent, and all of these people are documenting the days after Nancy Guthrie has gone missing. Nancy Guthrie, the woman that lived in the red brick house. She's missing, and they're documenting day 1, day 2, day 3, now going on over 30 days of her being missing and of her being taken from her home. And even with a $1 million reward, the head of the FBI getting involved.
We will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions.
Trump getting involved.
But ultimately, when the FBI got involved, I think, progress has been made.
There are still no solid answers. And when there's no solid answers, people tend to start creating their own. Like, is this case a cover-up for something else? What do they not want us to know about this case? This is the case of Nancy Guthrie and all of the conspiracies, speculations, and rumors, including, is this case used as a headline cover-up to bury everything else that has been happening in the US? We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to follow in Savannah Guthrie's footsteps and donate to NECMEC, aka the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, in an effort to raise visibility and action for various missing person cases that haven't received widespread attention. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support. As always, full show notes are available at RottenMangoPodcast.com. Today's case involves mentions of kidnapping, not of minors, but of elders, which is still a very vulnerable population. So if kidnapping, elder abuse is sensitive, please watch with discretion. And a few housekeeping disclaimers. Statements and quotes may be condensed for brevity, and everyone is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law. We tried to touch base on everything in this case as neutrally as possible. There has been a lot of internet debate and discourse about who could be possible suspects, but I do want to mention that there have been no suspects named by any law enforcement. This is just people coming up with answers in a time when there are none. So with that being said, if you have seen anything, please call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. So with that, let's get started. I think tall people are scary. Okay, to clarify, I think abnormally tall people are scary. I'm not even talking like humanly tall, 7 feet, 8 feet. I've never met people that are that tall. But even the tallest man in history, which is close to 9 feet, Robert Wadlow, I don't think he's scary. I'm talking even taller. There is something about super tall human-like forms, I think, that just freak people out. It's the center of a lot of urban legends and stories. Slender Man, skinwalkers, technically Bigfoot. But even those are rarely 40 feet tall. 40 feet tall is like a 4-story building. If you're walking in a neighborhood at night and you see the shadow of a 40-foot figure with 3 arms sticking up into the air, I would probably scream. But I also don't live in the Catalina foothills, and I've never seen a saguaro cactus. These cactuses are huge. They're 40 feet tall and they look kind of human in the night. And Tucson, Arizona is a very unique place where they have anti-light pollution ordinances in place. So they don't let you have bright city lights, or even in the suburbs, you can't have those really bright lights that light up your driveway, light up the outside exterior of your home.
Really?
Yeah, so it's dark.
To protect the wildlife, or?
No, Tucson is known for just beautiful astronomy.
Oh, I see. Huh.
So you can go there and the sky is stunning, but it's not bright that it's just like reflecting everything onto the street. There's no street lights in most residential areas. It's dark. And so you've got that coupled with these 40-foot tall saguaro cactuses. It's an interesting environment. The Catalina foothills specifically tend to have nicer homes. It feels kind of suburban, but not suburban. I know with this case in particular, a lot of people thought that Nancy Guthrie was just living in like a regular residential neighborhood where the houses are kind of close together, which comes to the question of why did anybody not see anything? How does that make sense? These houses are sitting on a 1-acre lot. You don't see your neighbors from your own house window. If you're standing in your backyard, it's highly unlikely that you'll spot a neighbor. Even if you go to the front yard, most of the homes are so deep into the lot with a ton of cactuses and brush just like in the front, you don't even see anyone at the front door if you're driving by. It also doesn't help that there's no streetlights, and it's also very scary at times because everything in the area has thorns, cactuses that are taller than people. Everything is pokey. And it's in this neighborhood that a member of the very well-known Guthrie family is kidnapped from this red brick house. And all we have is the doorbell footage. We don't even have the doorbell. The doorbell is gone. Whoever did this appears to have, though it's unconfirmed, a lot of things are unconfirmed, ripped off the doorbell and taken it with them. So naturally,
someone like yanked the Ring doorbell off the wall?
Yeah, Google Nest, but yes.
What?
So naturally, the footage is in all black and white. The camera captures the arched brick entryway and this small porch area before you get to the front door. And there is a man fully clothed, ski mask with just the eyes and the mouth cut out, walking up to the door. Off the bat, there are a few startling things to note in this footage. He seems to have a really full backpack on. The backpack looks stuffed with something, and probably nothing good. And then there's a gun holster right in front of his crotch, which is an odd placement. Nobody puts a gun holster right in front and center. Nobody wears their gun like that. It's such an odd thing to do unless you really just want to look as terrifying as possible. I mean, I can't think of any other reason. I think walking up to a woman's home dressed as such with a gun placed on the groin area would add an additional terrifying element. Side note, it is also believed that the front holster, the gun holster, was made for a longer barrel gun, but the gun that they had in was a small semi-automatic gun. So it's not like safely secured right in front of their crotch. He has gloves on and a flashlight inside of his mouth, and he's using that to guide himself in the dark. We know based off the footage, the suspect is around 5'9", 5'10". They have an average build. They had an Ozark Trail hiker backpack that you can buy exclusively from Walmart. He walks up to the front door. He's very casual. He isn't constantly glancing around behind him to check if somebody is driving up or is on the road. He seems like he's at least familiar with the front door. Whether that means he's seen pictures of it, gone there before, went there last year trick-or-treating, like we don't know. It's just public speculation, but it just seems like someone that has seen this door and knows exactly what to expect, except it doesn't seem like he expects a doorbell camera. He tries to cover the Google Nest front doorbell camera with his gloved hand, so he keeps like shoving his hand in front of it, okay? And then later, he walks back out of the porch to go grab some foliage, some leaves, some branches, some flowers, and then he tries to shove it into the camera to cover it. And when that doesn't work, it's presumed that he just rips the camera from the door, disconnecting it entirely. And once that footage disconnects, the only thing that the public will know soon after is that around 2 a.m, February 1st, 2026, Nancy Guthrie, the woman living alone in that house, will be gone. And there will be droplets of blood on the ground of the front porch that are confirmed to belong to Nancy Guthrie. The Guthrie family are very well known all over the US, but especially so in Arizona. So the family consists of Nancy and Charles Guthrie. Charles Guthrie passed away a long time ago, so it's mainly just 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. Nancy and her husband Charles went to the University of Kentucky, and that's how they met. And the two of them have 3 children, Annie, Cameron, and Savannah Guthrie. Annie is a writer and a jeweler. She teaches classes, creative writing courses at the University of Arizona Poetry Center. She also has a book on the craft of jewelry making. She's married to a man named Tommaso. He's very important later. They share a young child, and I say important later because of the online discourse, not because of anything else. Okay, so you've got Annie and her husband Tommaso. Then you have the next child, Cameron. He is a former pilot of the Air National Guard. So he retired as an F-16 pilot.
Wow.
Then there's Savannah Guthrie. She is an attorney. She's also a massive TV anchor. So she previously worked at Court TV covering a lot of criminal cases. But now she's most known for being the co-host of the Today Show for NBC. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
You ready to cook?
I'm ready.
And just because everyone's partners are being, poken about and brought up, Savannah was previously married to a BBC journalist, Mark Orchard. Then she divorced and remarried to a man named Michael Feldman, who is a political consultant. They also have young children. Savannah was going to be co-hosting the Olympic ceremony for NBC as a co-host for the Winter Olympics, but she could not attend because February 1st, someone kidnaps her mother. But who would want to take 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie? I know it sounds morbid, but a lot of the conversation online was if you had to bet money, and I know that sounds weird, but I think it just points to the confusion that people have. If you had to assume that someone was going to get kidnapped, maybe it's the one that's nationally known. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you take an elderly woman from her home when she's sleeping? What do you want from her? She can barely walk 100 feet on her own. Now, I will say that she is 84, but all reports and the Guthrie family have been steadfast in the fact that she is so mentally sharp. She's all there. Like, cognitively, she's sharp as a tack, but she does have mobility issues. And she is on medications every day. And that's another thing. She can't walk on her own. She's heavily, needs these medications. She has a pacemaker. This is a high-risk crime. What would be the purpose?
What's a pacemaker?
I think it's like it helps your heart pump.
Oh.
Yeah. There are a few things that almost all ransom notes have in common. And I think it can be tracked and studied by authorities because you don't see a lot of cases of kidnapping a human for ransom, but you do see a lot of cases these days of hackers sending ransom notes with threats of going public with security breaches, data, information, personal accounts. And each ransom note has a format that it follows because ransom notes are not in the business of standing out. It's not about the stylistic word choices or the plot. It all starts with communication. It's the claim. We have something valuable, your asset in our possession, whether that's a human, whether that's data, whatever it may be. Then demand, deadline, and threat. What do they want in exchange for their claim of possession? Typically money. And more often than not, they're very specific. They don't want things to get lost in translation. They don't want it to go to some random dude because you got one number wrong in the bank account. The more a ransom maker has to contact the victims, the more chance that they're going to get caught. So they will tell you the exact value, payment method, how to deliver the payment, and then the deadline. They will give victims a range typically of 6 to 20 days as the deadline. And then it's the threat. For example, John Benet Ramsey's ransom note read, "Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies." Ransom notes used to be handwritten, but nowadays most ransom notes are in the form of an email sent to the victims or the targets, the ones with the money. Except in Nancy's case, it just gets strange. February 1st, she's kidnapped in the middle of the night from her home. The night of February 2nd, so almost a full 24 hours later, a local news station gets an email submitted into their tip line. It's like their tip suggestions. It's not even a physical note in an email. It's not even a PDF attachment. I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting a DocuSign. However, the ransom note comes in the form of a literal form. So we have this on our website too with the show notes. You can submit a case request. It's like, please enter your name, the case suggestion, your email if you'd like. It's like a form. It's not an open email where you go into your own email account and then send an email. A local news station in Arizona gets a form submitted. And it's the ransom note.
But how do we... Oh.
We don't know.
Because that way it's hard to track who sent it, right?
Yeah, and they did use like a VPN to track their IP. The details of the note have not been made public, but it has been reported and confirmed by authorities that it is a ransom note. Is it a legitimate ransom note? That's to be determined. However, it is a ransom note. Another local news station confirmed that they also received the same ransom note. And then I believe the next day, so 48 hours after, TMZ receives a very similar ransom note.
So this person is not sending it to the family directly,
No.
but instead to the news because they want publicity.
But don't you think that's weird?
That is weird. Why are you asking for publicity rather than money?
Okay, so that's why a lot of people think it's weird too, especially former law enforcement. They're saying maybe if you're trying to hedge the chance of being caught, so you want to send it not directly to the victims, but you send it through these news networks. But a lot of experts are saying publicity is the last thing people want when they're making a ransom note.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, unless you're saying, hey, I'm going to air out my grievances because the system did me dirty, or you're trying to make a message out of something. But if that's not the case, you don't want publicity because let's say you do get the Bitcoin. They're asking for $4 to $6 million in Bitcoin. Let's say you do get the Bitcoin. Now you have to drop Nancy off somewhere. The last thing you want is eyes and ears everywhere. It just doesn't make any sense. But these 3 news outlets, they get ransom notes that are said to be very similar, detailing 2 separate deadlines and 2 different demands. So it's like, here's the first deadline. We want $4 million in Bitcoin to this Bitcoin wallet. If you can't do it by this day, we'll give you an extension of 3 days. But you're going to pay $6 million now.
What's the deadline for the first one? How many days was given?
It's to like February 6th. It's like a week.
Oh.
Not even, really, because they don't get the ransom note until later. So she disappears February 1st. They don't get the ransom note until February 2nd. And if the deadline is February 6th, it's like, it's like no time.
4 days, yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be any proof of life given in the letters in the note. And I will say that Harvey Levin, who is the founder of TMZ, has been a little bit more vocal about what's been in this said ransom note. The other outlets seem to be a little more hush-hush. But he was in an interview with Sean Hannity, and he said,
I will say the letter begins by saying she is safe but scared. And they go on to say she knows exactly what the demand is. I will say that there are real reasons based on what's written there that I believe that this person is in the radius of the Tucson area.
So the authorities have stated that they know of the ransom demands. They have shared it with the family, and they cannot verify if this is legitimate or not. They are taking it seriously, though, but this is not authenticated. And there's just so much about this ransom note that is weird. Like the fact that ransom makers don't want things to be public.
So when the mother was kidnapped on February 1st, it's already viral. The news was not hush-hush. So everybody knows about this. So there could be a copycat or someone just trying to make some money, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did not provide proof of life. It is just very odd that they would want media attention. It just doesn't make sense. It's not like they're the Zodiac killer who's taunting the police and the city. It just feels weird. It almost feels hasty, not well thought out. There are netizen theories online that perhaps this was supposed to be a regular home invasion, but maybe Nancy, fearing for her life, could have mentioned that her daughter is Savannah Guthrie and like she has money and she'll pay, just leave her alive. So it was a robbery, but then they realized that they could probably get a ransom, so they take Nancy, and that's why the ransom note feels hasty. Other people are suspecting, like you, maybe the ransom note has nothing to do with who has Nancy, because it could be completely separate if there's no proof of life. Now, the authorities, they must feel it's legitimate to some degree. So there have been like some reporting that in the ransom note, it either detailed something that Nancy had been wearing or detailed something in the house, perhaps an Apple Watch detail.
Is it better that they don't release the details of the notes? Or is it part of the notes that they say, don't release this? Why is it unclear what's on there?
The authorities have been pretty quiet about what's in anything. I think that's pretty standard protocol for the FBI. They don't like to talk about anything that they discover until an indictment is slapped onto the table. But for the local sheriff, he has been talking. He's been yapping quite a bit, actually. Sheriff Nanos, he's the one heading the investigation, but they don't want to talk about the contents of the ransom note, which I think is probably intentional, and I think it makes sense.
Okay.
But they just keep saying, it's not authenticated, but it does seem like there's some detail in the ransom note that makes it feel like it could be real.
Okay.
But if it is real, the demands are this. By February 6, 2026, Thursday, 5 p.m. local time, the kidnappers want $4 million in Bitcoin transferred to their Bitcoin wallet. If the Guthrie family cannot make that happen, then they have a second deadline. Monday, February 9th, 2026, $6 million in Bitcoin. These are the 2 deadlines, with the insinuation being if the second one is missed, Nancy Guthrie's life is on the line. February 4th, so this is 3 days after Nancy goes missing, 2 days before the first ransom deadline. Nancy's daughter, Annie Guthrie, gets a text message. So does her husband, Tommaso. Did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction. Then a brief 9-second phone call comes in to one of the family members. This is like usually the moment in the movies that the agents are looking for, the part in the movies where they do their best to get the family member to keep the caller on the phone for as long as possible so that they can try to trace the phone call where it's coming from. And the call leads back to a 42-year-old man in California, to a man named Derek Kallela.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. A few days later, this guy, 42-year-old, texts them?
Yes.
And he called them?
Yeah, for 9 seconds.
Saying what?
We don't know. But it's a 9-second phone call.
Nobody knows the context of the phone call?
I mean, the police.
Police does?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then they hang up.
Okay.
So the police track that number to a 42-year-old man in California. Authorities immediately arrest him, and he's read his Miranda rights, and they're like, where is Nancy? And Derek pretty quickly admits he doesn't know where Nancy is.
Did he send a message or did he?
Yeah, he didn't send the ransom note. He sent that text message. He said that he was keeping up with the information online and he heard about the ransom note and he was watching TV. And he just wanted to see if the family would respond.
That's bonkers.
So
how did he even find their numbers?
Like on one of those...
Google?
Yeah.
That is... what?
Yeah.
And he...
I do think that Derek is all around a horrible human being. Just a few months ago, October 2025, he was accused of stealing unemployment benefits from the LA County's DA's office where he worked as a clerk. He was charged with 1 felony count grand theft and 1 misdemeanor offense. Adding to that,
he works at DA's office?
As like a clerk. He did. Well,
Yeah.
he was fired, yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah.
He works for DA's office and he commit these crimes. He knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, this is getting weirder.
He has been, arrested and charged with transmitting a demand for ransom in interstate commerce and using telecommunication devices with intent to abuse, threaten, or harass. The FBI has come out to state, because the FBI doesn't state a lot of things, but they did come out to state.
To those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation, we will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions.
But this doesn't mean that all of the ransom notes are fake, right? I mean, just because you have one imposter, he's clearly not the one that sent the original ransom notes to the media outlets, right? So here's what we know. There are 3 detailed ransom notes sent to 3 media publications that all seem similar. Those ransom notes have 2 deadlines and demands, $4 to $6 million in Bitcoin. There's no proof of life. There's no pictures, videos, or anything of Nancy that would indicate that they do in fact have her and that she is in fact alive. FBI, however, is taking it very seriously and they have not authenticated it. Then Derek gets arrested because he saw the news about the ransom notes and the Guthrie family ransom. He finds Annie and her husband's numbers and starts texting them, hoping to get some Bitcoin in his wallet. He is not the author of the original ransom note. So the original ransom note still stands. The FBI has brought in crisis negotiators, personnel from Quantico, and as limited the ransom note seems to be, it seems to be one of the big things that the authorities seem to have in terms of finding Nancy and bringing her home. That and $6 million of Bitcoin, right? The Guthrie siblings, Savannah, Annie, and Cameron, have come out with a video, which we're going to go over in a second. We're going to go through all their videos, but they have been pleading for the safe return of their mother. They have explicitly stated that they are willing to pay, but they just need proof of life. They also mentioned with technology these days, even if they were to receive a photo or video, I mean, the insinuation being, even if they did get something, it would take a lot of work to verify that it's a real photo, which has not been altered, which has not been created. I'm sure the FBI would hopefully have a good grasp on that, but they haven't even received that from what the reporting seems. And it's all made more confusing because there is a 41-minute window where the intruder gets into the house and then presumably leaves. So let's go through the timeline real quick. 9:48 p.m., Nancy is dropped off at home after dinner at her daughter and son-in-law's house, which is Annie Guthrie and Tommaso. Savannah Guthrie lives in New York City.
Okay.
Annie lives 10 minutes away, so she gets dropped off after dinner at 9:48 p.m. At 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera is disconnected. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker disconnects from her phone, meaning that she is likely moved out of the Bluetooth range of her phone that her pacemaker inside her body is connected to, which leads the public to assume that whoever was outside the house made it inside. Also, we the public don't know. There are rumors that there were signs of a forced entry. There are rumors that there were no signs of a forced entry. We don't know.
Right. So without the pacemaker connected, does that impact her?
No, it doesn't impact the pacemaker, or at least it shouldn't by most reporting. I'm not too familiar with pacemakers, but it shouldn't. However, she does take daily medication that she needs, that is prescribed to her, and it doesn't seem like those were taken from the house.
Like, is it life-threatening without it?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why there were rumors that she was taken into Mexico. There are a lot of pharmacies near the border. So Nancy's house is about an hour and a half drive from Mexico, the border. And there are a lot of southern pharmacies south of the border where they will sell a lot of prescription medication without a prescription. So maybe she was taken into Mexico so that they could acquire. Or, I mean, someone could have gone across the border, acquired such medication if this was all planned out, and then kidnapped Nancy if she is alive.
I see.
Right? But regardless, the public assumption is that whoever made it into the house stayed for 41 minutes. And there are blood droplets that belong to Nancy outside her front door. That 41 minutes, it makes people wonder, and I mean more so worry, about what the hell could have happened inside that house for 41 minutes. There are videos popping up all over the internet that have very shocking titles. Savannah Guthrie devastated, new shocking revelations about Michael Feldman. Michael Feldman being her husband. Another title from a video is Michael Feldman arrested, Savannah Guthrie left in shock. What Savannah Guthrie discovered about Michael Feldman left her shaken. All the videos coming out are around Nancy's disappearance, and when you click on the video, it's this oddly monotone, deep voice that will narrate you, and it shows you a slideshow of pictures of Savannah and her husband smiling. His name is Michael Feldman, a political strategist, a man who was once at the very center of her world, and now new revelations are surfacing that are putting a very different picture of who he really was, what their relationship truly cost her, and what sources close to Savannah are now saying she is absolutely devastated. This is not a tabloid story. This is not gossip. This is the story of a woman who gave up everything, her truth, her time, her heart, and what happened when the foundation she thought was solid turned out to have cracks. The video goes on and on and on like this for 25 minutes, saying things like, people say Savannah would carry the emotional weight of their entire household on her own. Mornings when she would wake up before dawn to prepare for broadcast, come home to manage the family and still find room to be the supportive partner, the present mother, the steady force in everyone else's storm. What no one was asking out loud was, who was being steady for Savannah? The answer, it turns out, was far more complicated than anyone wanted to admit.
So like AI made it?
Yeah, AI generated slop. These videos never say anything. They just have a crazy headline that insinuates Savannah's husband, Michael Feldman, is guilty of something and that she has been left devastated. Whoever is mass making and uploading these insensitive AI generated slop during Nancy's disappearance seems to want everyone to believe that Savannah's husband, Michael Feldman, is suspicious. But the internet might be doing something slightly worse. That is not the member in the family that the internet has started to pick apart. Out of all of the Guthries and the extended family members that are public facing, there has been one individual that has been regarded as a person of interest by the internet, not the police, not the authorities, but by people online. And that is Annie Guthrie's husband, Tommaso. So this is Savannah Guthrie's brother-in-law, Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law. And I would like to heavily emphasize, however, that every single public-facing member of the family appears to have been cleared by the authorities. The sheriff has stated intensely, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism.
Interesting.
The only reason that I'm covering the conversation around Savannah's brother-in-law is that so much of the discourse online seems to be about him, and to be comprehensive on covering this case, I think it would be a disservice to not address what the online conversation has been taking place. And when I say online conversation, Reddit and TikTok, but even mainstream media channels. I have a pickle to pick about this. Legacy media has taken to try and rewrite the way all of this has unfolded, which is annoying to say the least. I think there are a lot of independent journalists and even content creators, and I'm not even saying myself, but other people out there that have been trying their best to maintain a level of professionalism while being transparent about their standing on political issues, being more vocal about standing on political and all of these time pertinent issues that are impacting everyone's lives, not only in this country, but countries all around the world, that are doing it in a way that is consumable. And there are some legacy media outlets that tend to be a bit more highbrow, or depending on who the giant corporation, the media company supports, you have a tint of all of that mixed in with their reporting. And just like how there are shit news anchors, there are shit content creators. However, Legacy Media has stated that the internet is the one that put a spotlight on Annie's husband, Tommaso, internet sleuths. And I would like to say that is false. From what we can tell in our research, there are two very experienced hosts, news anchors, Ashley Banfield and Megyn Kelly. Regardless of what you think of them, I would say that they both lean more towards legacy media, traditional media. They both come from traditional media, even though they both have their own uber successful podcasts now. They are more synonymous with major news networks than a YouTuber would be. They are the ones that, from what I can see, were the first ones to put Tommaso's name out there as being someone who might be considered a person of interest. I believe Ashley Banfield stated that she is a high-level source that informed her that they are looking into Tommaso. Her words were actually a little bit stronger, saying that he is considered a suspect.
Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, that would be Annie's husband, Tommaso Cioni, age 50, from Tucson, Arizona, married to Annie P. Guthrie, Savannah's sister. And my law enforcement source tells me that Tommaso Cioni is the prime suspect in this case.
Wait, she said that she had a source.
Yeah, a high-level source. Now, Megyn Kelly has argued repeatedly that all the individuals closest to Nancy are going to be persons of interest because that is what happens in a case like this.
That doesn't mean that this guy did it, and it doesn't mean he's their only possible suspect. But her person said may be the prime, and mine basically said feel free to stay on him.
Both of them have their in-depth arguments on why they believe Tommaso should be looked at by law enforcement. Both of them have much more experience in the industry than probably our whole RM team combined, likely. This is not me giving a full dissection on what they said. I'm just telling you what happened. I don't have high-level sources in this case. And other than trying to trace back where Tommaso's name starts becoming a huge topic, I did not extensively follow their coverage on this case. Though I will note, I did follow Brian Enton. He is another News Nation reporter. He's doing ground coverage. His coverage has been extensive. It's been really thorough, really informative, while maintaining the sensitivities of this case. So I would go give him a listen. But there is that. And all I'm trying to say is, it's just annoying that Legacy Media is saying that these are TikTokers, these are internet sleuths, these are commentators on the internet that are now pointing the finger at a beloved family member who is also a victim, when that's not really how it started.
They brought up his name, and then the police came out to say they have been clear. Stop talking.
Yeah, so I will say that there probably was internet whispers on Reddit and other forums and threads where people are like, oh, well, maybe we should look into the family members and A, B, C, and D. But I think that anytime someone says something like that, it does tend to get shut down by people who are like, hey, I don't think we should comment things like this until let the investigators do their job. But then Ashley Banfield came out to state, and this is just an opinion of mine, that she has a high-level source that told her that he is being investigated as perhaps a person of interest. I think because she has such a good reputation, rightfully so probably, that people were like, oh, this must mean something. Like a high-level source, it must be true. Like, this must be what's happening. And so people just went free-for-all on Tommaso, is how I could trace it back. I could be wrong. And this giant conversation has erupted. Whether it's because of Ashley Banfield or not, I cannot tell you, but it has now been a huge topic. The conversation is still developing even after the sheriff cleared the family members. Because netizens are wondering, how can people be cleared when it appears that the sheriff's office doesn't even know what happened the night that Nancy disappeared? I'm pretty sure family members can be cleared by airtight alibis. There have been reports that police are using polygraphs to clear people, which people have opinions about, but that has yet to be confirmed. But some netizens who are married to the idea that someone in the family had involvement, they think it's odd that the sheriff can clear a family. They also think it's odd that the FBI did not clear the family. Everyone's creating arguments online, and I'm just trying to give you a neutral overview of the conversation. A lot of netizens bring up past reporting and past pressers that the sheriff has done. So, for example, there is a comment that the sheriff made in a previous press conference where he says,
you know, it goes back to what we talked about. Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim.
So a lot of people took that last part of either a suspect is a suspect or they're nobody, but why would a suspect also be a victim? Unless maybe you're a family member. So people have been ripping that apart, but he did plead with the media, quote,
I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect, and you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you could do some damage to that individual too. Social media is kind of an ugly world sometimes.
One person straight up asks the sheriff during the presser, are you actively investigating the son-in-law in this case? I know there are reports earlier this week and you refuted that, but you said you haven't eliminated everybody. Have you eliminated him, or are you actively looking at him?
We're actively looking at everybody we come across in this case. Everybody. We would be irresponsible if we didn't talk to everybody, the Uber driver, the gardener, the pool person, whoever, everybody. It's so cliche, but everybody's still a suspect in our eyes. That's just how we look at things and think as cops. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No, and the family has been very cooperative. They've done everything we've asked of them, and we want that relationship to continue. And sometimes people can be mean out there, and that can really harm us and harm our efforts.
Netizens argue that it's very strange, especially since the sheriff has made weird comments before all of this, such as he's asked, Sheriff, you said that you've identified no suspects. Have you ruled out anyone she was with on Saturday night? So remember, Nancy went to go to her daughter and son-in-law's house for dinner. The sheriff responds,
we've talked to so many. I'm sure that my investigators have feelings about this one's clear or this one isn't, but no, I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else? No.
I don't think that these statements should be used to throw guilt upon a family member. I would just say that this sheriff is not the most clean cut with his words. He's not very meticulous in the way that he answers reporters' questions. He does seem kind of all over the place.
I see.
There was like one day where he did a huge media tour where he was on like 5 different news stations, and he's like saying slightly different things on each one. And it's not like he doesn't know the case. It just seems like he's choosing different words that could be interpreted differently, and it just made everybody more confused. So instead of doing one press conference, he just made it confusing. But with that statement, he could be talking about other people that Nancy was with Saturday that we just don't know about. Nancy's last hours being seen alive. January 31st, Saturday, 5:32 p.m., Nancy gets an Uber to her daughter Annie's house for dinner. She takes an Uber there. She can't drive. And once she gets there, she hangs out, plays games, and hangs out, eats dinner. And then around 9:48 p.m., Tom, Nancy's son-in-law, Tommaso, drops her off at home. And I think she has some sort of smart garage, because there's indications that the garage door closes at 9:50 p.m. So I'm sure if there's a log, it's like a smart door. Then 4 hours later, the doorbell disconnects. And then at 2:12, software detects someone on camera. And then 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker disconnects from her phone. So again, 41 minutes. Now, the rest of the night continue. The next morning is Sunday morning. Nancy goes to her friend's house, and I assume that she Ubers there, and they all watch Savannah Guthrie's church in New York City. I guess it's like a mega church. They do live streams. So she watches that live streams with like her buddies.
Like you're saying every Sunday?
Yes. So she doesn't go to a church physically, but she goes to like her girlfriend's house, and they all watch the live stream of a church service. She doesn't show up for that live stream, and they start calling Annie because they're like, your mom didn't show up. Where is she? Annie goes to Nancy's house, and 7 minutes later they call 911. Annie has been under fire by commentators online because, I mean, there's like a whole theory about the pacemaker. So the pacemaker, a lot of people in the medical field have come out on Reddit, and I mean, take this with a grain of salt. Again, I don't know anything about pacemakers, but they're saying that when you have an elderly person connected to a pacemaker, the closest living family member also is connected to their pacemaker. So if the pacemaker disconnects or something happens, the closest living relative will get an alert of that. Like, what good would it do if Savannah Guthrie gets an alert of that in New York City? She's going to fly to Arizona. Like, by that point, a lot can happen. So would it not make sense that it would be Annie that gets an alert on her phone? And maybe she didn't see it at 2 a.m, but how come she didn't react before the church lady said something. That's been like social media conversation. We don't even know if Annie is connected to her pacemaker. Like that, she could not be connected to her pacemaker for whatever reason. So it's just like every little thing, because we're going on over a month now. I think people have so little information. This case has been shoved in all the headlines. I guess to most graciously describe it is, it's a case that is nonstop on the news for a month. And so people will read the news, get invested, get emotionally invested, and then there's so little information, I think people start just making up their ideas of what happened. So I'm just going to run through all the things that people think are suspicious about Annie and Tommaso. And this is just me being comprehensive about the internet coverage. It is not me saying that I think that they're involved or that they should be looked at as persons of interest. I think the investigators will hopefully know what they're doing better than I am. There was intense FBI presence around Annie Guthrie's house at one point. Agents were going door to door to ask for consent to search people's properties near Annie Guthrie's house. They were allegedly looking in sheds, going under fences. One neighbor reports to the media that they were searching for something that could have been dropped, or at least that's what the FBI agents told her.
Could have been dropped?
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, oh, why would they look into Annie Guthrie's house unless there's something weird there? The argument here is, I mean, that was the last place that Nancy was before going home. Of course that they would want to search it. That's just being thorough. Another thing is, you don't know who is in any of these homes. So the fact that they're searching Annie Guthrie's house does not mean that the authorities are suspicious of Annie Guthrie or Tommaso or anybody else. It could be anybody that enters that house. And this is an assumption. Seeing drone footage, news coverage, at least outside of Nancy Guthrie's house, there's probably housekeepers, caretakers, maintenance men, pool cleaners, landscapers. I mean, it's a big house, and she is an 84-year-old woman. She probably has a lot of people come and tend to the grounds. That could mean that someone connected to those people could be involved. So a lot of experts are weighing in on this case, and they're saying, if you really do kidnap a wealthy individual for ransom, it's usually someone who knows the people personally. And that's not to say it's a family member, but let's say you have a housekeeper, and maybe it's not the housekeeper, but that housekeeper saw you go on a shopping spree. They don't care, but they go home and over dinner, they're like, oh, I have this one client who just like...
The third party.
And their cousin is like, oh, that's very interesting. How much jewelry do they have?
Okay.
So they could be searching Annie Guthrie's home, not because of Annie Guthrie, but because Annie Guthrie could also have housekeepers who talk, or she could have groundskeepers who talk. And in defense of the family members, there is no warrant to search Annie Guthrie's house. It's been publicly stated that Annie and her husband have consented to a search of their home. The search could be nothing just because, like I said, Nancy was at their house the night before. But one officer who worked in a lot of cases says, when you suspect someone, you never want to do a search with consent. You want a warrant. Because once it goes to trial, they could be like, I never gave you consent. What are you talking about?
It's also my understanding that they utilize the consent search in order to go back into that property, and I find that rather unusual too, because if they did in fact locate anything that might be incriminating, it causes legal issues down the road.
So this police officer is saying that the fact this is a consent search,
yes,
meaning they're not really a person of interest.
Yes. But, you know, there are other officers who are fighting back saying, well, sometimes not really. And then you have other people saying it could also be a sealed warrant. And they did consent. You know, like, we don't really have proof that there's no warrant. But I do think it's interesting. And I would imagine that they did consent to the search.
So, but that is, okay, going back to what this officer said, if it's a consent search, what happens with the evidence? You can deny?
I mean, it's... most likely it's still going to be admissible, but he's just saying it's a headache. Because then you have lawyers being like, oh, my client never consented to a search. And then you're like, okay, now it's like a headache. Now you got to bring in more officers to testify. It's like, it becomes a thing. Okay. So it seems like some practice that they do where they're like, let's avoid the headache, get a warrant. You know?
Okay.
So that has been a huge issue. The next thing is that for the longest time, Tommaso was just MIA. A lot of people found it weird that Tommaso was not in the videos with the Guthrie siblings pleading for Nancy's return. I don't think that that's weird. I would imagine Annie and Tommaso do have a child together. Perhaps while Annie is dealing with this, he could be with their child. I mean, that would make the most sense in my mind. But a lot of people took his absence away from the public eye or being vocal about this case as him being guilty. Then the next time that he was seen was a recent memorial walk where Savannah Guthrie, Annie Guthrie, and Tommaso went to Nancy's house. So people had laid out all these yellow flowers all around the perimeter of the house, neighbors, media. I mean, just some people had trekked, made a journey to come to Nancy's house to lay out yellow flowers, whether they have a personal story of their own, I'm not sure, but they went to go pay their respects to, I guess, maybe the people that have shown support. And people have been overanalyzing Tommaso's walk, his gait. So the Ring doorbell footage, the Google Nest footage, there's a part where the person leans down to pick up the foliage to try and cover the doorbell. People are like, look at Tommaso when he leans down to like put the flowers down. There's like so much that is going on. And people are using this. They're like taking screenshots, comparing the screenshots. And when you do things like this, it feels like it has evidentiary value, but it probably doesn't. I mean, I think at any point you could probably screenshot my walk into looking like something else. It just, it's a lot that's happening. And I'm not saying I know Tommaso and that he's for sure innocent. I'm just saying it's a little dangerous to do that with someone who is a relative of the family member with as little information that we have. Second, there is another thing that has been overanalyzed is the fact that the sheriff originally came out to say, okay, so after going to dinner, Nancy was dropped off by Tommaso. Then he later changes it to say by a family member. So people are like, why is he taking the heat off of Tommaso unless he wants Tommaso to talk to him more or to feel less pressure from the public? And I just think maybe he's just saying that because people have been bullying Tommaso. Then federal agents with shirts that read ICAC on their shirts are seen going into Annie and Tommaso's house.
ICAC?
Yes.
What is
so
that?
that is Internet Crimes Against Children, which sounds shocking. However, a few things to note. The division ICAC, they're actually a unit within the feds that deal heavily with kidnappings, and they're really adept at retrieving data from devices. It doesn't have to be that they particularly think that someone is committing crimes against children in this house. It's literally, they're just helping with a kidnapping. Furthermore, when they walk into Annie and Tommaso's house, they're seen walking in with a tripod and a ring light. So then the natural insinuation is that they're helping the family film the Instagram videos where they are begging whoever took Nancy to bring her back. The typical workday is the quintessential 9 to 5, but even if you clock out at those times or the front desk at your current health providers clocks out at those times, your health is not a 9 to 5 thing. It's not on a 9 to 5 schedule. That thing on your arm that you spot only after a long day, the cough that you've been ignoring for weeks that is suddenly keeping you up all night long, that is not a 9 to 5 thing. Go to ZocDoc anytime and find a doctor that you love, even if it's way after hours. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors. They have more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, so you can search by specialty or even by symptom to build the exact care team you need. ZocDoc, the best free app that makes booking a doctor as easy as ordering takeout. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/rotten to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/rotten. Thanks, ZocDoc, for sponsoring this message. The very first family video shows Savannah, Annie, and Cameron sitting together on a couch. Savannah and Annie start speaking. They have papers in front of them. Savannah Guthrie is in the middle and she starts, and I'm going to insert this for the video watchers.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny and spunky and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day. Despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief, we are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom. We love you.
After this video comes out, the internet does what it does and they start making commentary on the video itself. Not the situation, but the video, stating that Savannah seems emotional. She's audibly crying. How about Annie and Cameron? They seem less emotional. Cameron barely speaks, and when Annie does, her tone and voice seem devoid of any emotion. These are just some of the things on the internet. They start feeling suspicious about this. I will say that it's pertinent to note that this is most likely how they were told to film the video. As neutral, as unemotional as possible, while still sounding sincere. If someone is out there with Nancy, everything in this video could be used against them. Like, not in the court of law, but could be used to harm them. A lot of hostage takers, kidnappers, they get off on the power dynamics, and getting off can mean a lot of things. If they see the family is hysterical and absolutely desperate, it can signal to the abductor that they have enormous control. So maybe they'll escalate their demands, they'll extend the timelines, they'll push their luck, and that could result in a death. One negotiator states, when emotions run high, both families and the kidnappers are more likely to make impulsive, dangerous choices. If you can't control your own emotions, how can you expect to influence the emotions of another party? And I think everybody reacts to stress differently. So while Savannah may show more outward emotion, slightly more, it could be very well that Annie and Cameron, in order for them to not be overly emotional in the video, which is what they're instructed to do probably, maybe the only way is to completely shut off all the emotion.
Okay.
And just kind of stare off and read what they've been told to read in a flat effect, because otherwise they're gonna sob. It could be that. Like, we really don't know. Cameron, Nancy's son, later does a video by himself where he is seen holding the camera, and he states, again without much emotion, he states,
"This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact."
But it's been now over a month. Nancy Guthrie needs medication to stay alive, and there's been no ransom paid, no further contact, at least that we know of, and no sign of Nancy Guthrie anywhere. There is a segment in Savannah Guthrie's book that has been heavily discussed online. Though I think it's not really relevant, some people have brought it up just because they believe the whole thing is odd and eerie. In one of Savannah's books, titled Mostly What God Does, she writes about how her and her cousins had this really cute tradition growing up, which they called the kidnapping game, where her cousin would visit the house, stay with them during summer break. So her cousin lives in Phoenix, which is a few hours away from Tucson. So her cousin would come stay in their family house in Tucson, and when she's about to leave, she would wake everyone up the next morning really early, Savannah and Annie, and she would say, "You should come with me." They would get in her car, drive to Phoenix, and on the way to Phoenix, they would stop by a payphone, call Nancy, Savannah and Annie's mom, and let her know, but in like a cute, playful way, Mom, cousin has kidnapped us to take her to her house. Nancy would act shocked because at this point, this is like a summer tradition, and she would protest how much she would miss her daughters, but then assure them that in a few days, she will drive up to get them. It's like a summer tradition. Some people think it's eerie. I think it just makes the whole situation more devastating. I'm sure there's moments where everyone in the family wishes that this was just a joke, that this was also just a game, and that Nancy will be home as if it's just a prank. But it is not. And Nancy Guthrie is now going on over a month of being missing. There are so many questions, such as, does the sheriff's office even know what the hell that they're doing? The sheriff's office of Pima County is the one leading the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. They have their own A&E TV show called Desert Law, where the sheriff himself does not appear on camera, but allegedly he's extensively involved in the production of it. In the show, they look like this well-organized crime unit that moves in synchrony to stop the bad guys.
Apparently it was about to happen, and we've prevented that.
Tucson is about an hour from the border, so there is a lot of smuggling of all sorts. Avocado smuggling is big in that area. It's not just smuggling in avocados, but drug cartels will conceal the narcotics mixed in with the avocados to get it across the border. But they don't really handle a lot of ransom for Bitcoin cases in Tucson. Do we know that the sheriff is well equipped to handle this case? From the very beginning, there were reports coming out that the sheriff and the FBI were not playing well together whilst investigating this case, which is the last thing you want. And it all stems, they've got beef. They have beef going back to 2016. This is not like one of those cop shows where it's like, oh, this is my jurisdiction. No, it's not. They have long-stemming issues between the two. The sheriff has come out and since denied that he feels any sort of beef or vitriol towards the feds, but it is interesting.
For someone to say that we're not working with the FBI or that the sheriff is stopping evidence from going up, that's just crazy. That's ludicrous. Why would I not use the FBI and their free services? The relationship between the sheriff's department and the FBI is valued. We do great work together.
The feds were investigating Pima Sheriff's Department in 2016, believing that they were taking RICO forfeiture funds. Yeah, the thing that Sean Combs was charged with, RICO. So they're like, okay, if you've been racketeering, I'm going to take your assets. They take the assets, and then those assets can be used for department things like crime prevention, specific law enforcement activities. This is by the law, like by the word, right? But the FBI started investigating because they're like, wait, we heard from a little tipster, a whistleblower, that you guys are using RICO money to bankroll the remodel of a cafe inside the sheriff's headquarters.
What can they use it for legally?
Crime prevention, but this does not fall under crime prevention.
Okay.
Like, how does having a better matcha latte for the sheriff prevent more crime, right? That was denied by the sheriff's office. They said, we didn't do that. And then a whistleblower comes out to state funds were used to host these special award ceremonies for the cops, helping pay for food, goodie bags for the officers, a Santa sleigh, rented tuxedos. Allegedly, the total cost of the award ceremonies was around $250,000 over the years. That was likely taken from RICO money, is the allegation. The investigation was a big deal, like a really big deal. One of the officers being investigated for transferring funds into his personal account was found dead from self-exit on Father's Day. He was widely considered to be the mastermind of this whole RICO money laundering scheme. Okay, well, I don't know if I would call it a money laundering scheme. This investigation. However, even the death, there were concerns that the death should be investigated independently by a third party because, sure, he might have reason to want to self-exit, but also someone would want him dead because maybe he could go down for everything. That's something to consider, but the sheriff was allegedly adamant that it be handled by his team internally. Sheriff Nanos, that same sheriff, is the one working this case, and some people who know Sheriff Nanos says that he holds a grudge and that he doesn't like the feds after that 2016 investigation. But those are allegations, those are speculations, those are opinions. There are more reports, though, coming out that the sheriff does not want the FBI to take over, which I mean, it seems like they probably should. And that there's just a lot of annoying things happening in this investigation. First of all, here's the weird thing. There are a few key pieces of forensic evidence that are deemed to be highly important in this case. There's probably more that the public doesn't know about, but the ones that the public do know about is one, obviously the blood tested on the front porch turned out to be Nancy Guthrie's. Second, they do find a pair of gloves 11 days later near the house, off the main highway. They think it could be the gloves used by the perpetrator or perpetrators. It's like those black nitrile gloves. So, I mean, they found a lot of them. So they sent all of them out for testing, and a ton of them turned out to be some of the search workers would just like, I guess they would put their search gloves into a baggie, and maybe that bag blew away in the wind and they just had scattered gloves everywhere. But that was a key piece of evidence. Then the third key piece of evidence is they did find DNA inside the house, Nancy Guthrie's house, that did not belong to Nancy Guthrie or any of her family members, relatives, or anyone that, I guess, works in that house frequently. But where this information is sent, where this data is sent to be tested for the forensics is really important. Interestingly, the FBI is like, we can take it to Quantico. Why would you not want it tested in Quantico? I don't know anything, but I probably would want it tested in Quantico, okay? But the sheriff is like, no, I'm going to send it to our private lab in Florida. So he sends it to the private lab in Florida. Now, a lot of people had a lot to say about this, but he does, kind of defend his decision. And in a slightly convoluted way, he says, why did we give ours to our lab? Because it's what we've done for years, and our labs always have done well. In fact, we used the FBI before. They're very good at solving things and doing things, but the FBI, not unlike our Department of Public Safety in Phoenix, they have a lab. They could have been used, but we look at it as this. If I use, for example, a state lab, DPS, or the federal lab, Quantico, you have to understand they have others using those labs too. So it really puts a lot of strain on them to prioritize those cases and do what they can with them, where if I have my own lab or a contract lab, it allows me easier access to those cases that I think are important to us. And I'm not talking, this case, but I'm just talking cases in general. And he's like, so now we find a glove. FBI says, oh, we can send it to Quantico. And I said, well, you know what? Let's just keep it all in one place. So he's like, I've already been sending it to this lab, so let's keep sending it to this lab, which I will say a lot of people are like, okay, there is a little bit of validity in that statement, as when you have multiple different labs involved and if there is a criminal trial eventually, it's a lot of people testifying.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so then he's like, let's just keep it all in one place. Let's just send it to our lab. And it's not like, no, the FBI's got a bad lab, or no, the sheriff's department uses DNL lab, bad lab. No, it's about keeping our evidence together in one spot. This is the sheriff speaking. And when that report comes out, it goes to both agencies. It just made sense, Out there they said, oh, the sheriff blocked evidence. This conversation I had with the FBI lasted probably a minute and a half, and they said, makes sense, and it was done. There was no blocking evidence. That's just crazy.
If you have two labs you're looking at and one's bad or one's better, that's fine. That's not the case here. Nobody's saying that. What they're saying is, why would we use two labs?
So that glove that they found, you say they found multiple gloves. Why is that glove special? Or
they had reason to believe that it was special. They got it tested, and there was no CODIS database match, which CODIS is like the vast network of anyone with a criminal history. They have all of their prints. But interestingly is kidnapping, a lot of experts say, is not a first offender crime.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Statistically, you don't have kidnappers that wake up one day with a clean record that say, today is the day that I kidnapped someone. Usually they're going to have some sort of a rap sheet previously. So they say that it's very interesting that there's no link
even
in the...
more suspicious.
And then later they came out to say, actually, maybe it wasn't a glove that was important because it actually belonged to a restaurant worker nearby. How do they know it belonged to a restaurant worker? We don't know. Like, did they go and test all the restaurant workers? They just said it was a restaurant worker. The sheriff has also been criticized for being seen at a basketball game during the investigation. And apparently, the sheriff didn't even know about Savannah Guthrie's video that she posted on Instagram with her siblings, the very first video, until his wife told him about it. And he mentions this to the media. And so everyone is like, this feels like a very expensive, unproductive investigation if that's the case, because it just feels weird. We're spending a lot of taxpayer resources, and not saying that it shouldn't be spent. I'm just saying there are a lot of missing persons out there where maybe they don't get this allocation of funds and personnel to search. And this is how you guys are handled. Like, you didn't even know that they were putting out a video. It doesn't even make any sense. The sheriff is also probably not used to being analyzed on a national scale for every word that he says. He doesn't strike me as particularly organized with his thoughts when he is speaking off the cuff. So here's a rundown of the questions and answers given by the sheriff during multiple different press conferences. Sheriff, is there any indication so far as to whether this was random abduction or targeted? Like I said earlier, we're looking at all the leads, and we don't know. We're going to assume both sides of that. We'll look at both sides. Do you have any idea what Nancy Guthrie was wearing or the type of car that she might have left from, or any identifiable information that the public could use to help with the tips? We do not. Sheriff, do you believe that one or more than one person was involved in the kidnapping? Just no clue. It could have been one, it could have been more. Is there any indication that Nancy Guthrie is still alive? We know the medication played a critical role here. It's been 48 hours. She needs it every single day. Are you still looking for someone that is still alive? We hope we are. We hope we are. Sheriff, you said earlier that you don't believe that there's a wider threat to the public. If you're not sure if it's targeted, why do you believe there's no wider threat to the public? Well, we have crime in Tucson all the time, right? Like any city. And so when you say a threat to the public, is there somebody out there who's kidnapping elderly people in the middle of the night every night? We've not heard that. We don't believe that's the case. We do believe that Nancy was taken from her home against her will, and that's where we're at. Even about the rumors of there being forced entry, he just states, I have no clue where that comes from. We have been very consistent. We are not discussing that at all. Whether it was forced entry or not forced entry, that is something we're just not discussing. We don't know where anybody got that information.
Okay. Well, I see. So that's a pretty standard question, no?
Yeah. Has there been any proof of life, and has there been any sign of life? I'm going to... Anything to deal with the ransom notes, I would defer to the FBI, but no, not to my knowledge. We are still looking for Nancy. Do you have any reason to believe that she's still out there alive, or are you fearful for the worst case scenario here that she won't be found alive? Well, I'm certainly fearful of that. I think we all are, but we operate from a position that until we know she's out there, she's alive, we're going to continue thinking that way until we find her. Is there anything more specific you can say about what you believe the motive to be for the kidnapping at this time? Motive is always going to be a question, and we'll know more as we go what that motive is. But right now, my guesswork is as good as yours. With these types of cases, though, sometimes the sheriff does appear disorganized, and that's not really good. One expert states, you are broadcasting basically every detail about this case. The more that's released to the public, the more that is now known by everybody, including if there is somebody out there who has Nancy Guthrie. They have to be very careful about what they're letting out about this case. But the way that he's doing it, like, he's not really answering questions, so I'll give him that. But it is weird. Like, it's just not the most well done. I will say the FBI, the special agent charge of the Tucson area, like, he's a bit more organized with his thoughts during these press conferences.
Oh, he's talking as well?
Yeah.
Alongside?
And he also diverts questions, doesn't answer questions. And I'm not saying that we deserve answers as the public, right? They should deem whatever is the best for the investigation. However, he is able to respond in a way that's very clear, succinct, and like, this is what's happening. Okay, that's it. But it's interesting because the police union president was interviewed by Brian Enton, and I would go watch the full interview, but he works with Sheriff Nanos, and he says, Sheriff Nanos...
What's their relationship exactly?
So he is the police union president, and he's also an officer. So he works under Sheriff Nanos, right? Okay. But he says Sheriff Nanos, he has an ego that's difficult to describe without sounding hyperbolic, and it drives a lot of his decision making. He's very retaliatory. Favorite version of retaliation is...
Wait, he works under him?
Yeah, but he can't be fired because he is the president of the police union. So it's really difficult, I'm sure, to fire him.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and so he's very retaliatory. Favorite version of retaliation is through transfers, which has impacted nearly every unit in this department and decreased our overall readiness. In my opinion, nearly every unit. The experience and expertise that there was, transferred out for whatever reason, and there are real impacts to that, and it lowered morale. And so there was a lot of hope that in the election in 2024, we would have a change in leadership, and when that didn't come to pass, that's when we started seeing a mass exodus of deputies and detectives. So that's been a huge conversation. Wow. Most of the detectives in the homicide unit at the Pima County Sheriff's Department, they're pretty green. Like, they don't have a lot of experience. I'm not saying they're not good, but it's like, do you want the doctor to perform surgery on you that performs surgeries every day or once every few months? There's also questions about the team not being well equipped, the turnover being high. Like, it's a lot. The sheriff states, this is a solid team. This is a team who solves crime every day. They are my experts. I would be silly to not listen to them. When they tell me we spent 20 some hours at the scene, we processed this scene, I'm taking their word that they're good. I don't need to hear from some pundit out there who's never done a crime scene. I don't need to hear from somebody who's never done a criminal investigation. I've got experts. That's who I choose to listen to. I don't need to hear from somebody who's never done a criminal investigation, and that's it. It's just all noise in the background. The critics who want to run for office, go do that stuff. I just want to find Nancy. I want my team focused every morning. When they hit that low, they know that they have someone who believes in them and their work, and they're going to do it. I have 100% faith they will solve this case. If you are the guy, if you are that monster, you should be worried. You should let her go. Just let her go.
I don't need to hear from some pundit out there who's never done a crime scene. I've got experts. That's who I choose to listen to. If you're the guy, if you're that monster, you should be worried. You should let her go. Just let her go.
And so there's been a lot of talk about Monday morning quarterbacking. I don't know what that means. I'm not a quarterback.
Who said that? The cops?
No, a lot of cops have been saying that there are a lot of news anchors, TV stations, social media content creators, netizens who are Monday morning quarterbacking, which I think is to insinuate that you are giving advice in an arena that you don't know. I guess it's like when guys give quarterbacks advice when they watch their favorite team play.
I see.
Yeah, so I guess we're all Monday morning quarterbacks. But 10 days after Nancy's disappearance, someone is detained. A 36-year-old delivery driver. His house is an hour from Nancy's house in Rio Rico, Arizona, which is really, really close to the border into Mexico. And while we do know his name and it has been publicly stated and used, I'm still going to call him Rio for Rio Rico, the city that he's from, just because this case is getting a lot of attention and he's saying that this has ruined his life.
I felt like I was being kidnapped, bro. They didn't tell me anything at the beginning. They told me all that I was detained, but they never read me my rights until the FBI got there. We're all scared. I can't stop thinking like what's gonna happen to me. They even detained my wife and my kids. Yeah, because they said that my eyes and my eyelashes look the same. I'm innocent.
And you don't even know who the lady is? Do you know who Savannah Guthrie is?
No.
Nothing.
I don't follow the news.
Right.
I don't watch.
You don't watch the Today Show?
No. I work in Tucson.
What do you do?
GLS, deliver packages.
Okay, do you think you might have delivered a package to Nancy Guthrie's house?
I don't know. Might have been a possibility. I don't know.
Rio is detained. His house is swatted. He's a delivery driver for DoorDash that lives an hour away from Nancy. He has no personal connection to Nancy. What the hell does he have to do with this case? Why would he want to harm Nancy? That's the tricky part of this case. That's a question that even with Rio or any of these people, no one knows. It does appear to some degree that the motive in this case could be harm. I mean, that's one of the more reasonable motives if we are to believe that that ransom note is not real, because that deadline has since long passed. There was no proof of life. There was no effort, at least publicly known, to reach back out to the family, to further communication line to get that Bitcoin amount. If that ransom note is not real, then was the intent harm? It's been reported that Nancy left behind her phone, keys, ID, wallet. I don't know if this is true. This is just what's been reported. It has not been authenticated by the law enforcement authorities. But these are the things that you would need to slowly drain someone's finances. You would need to put in their passwords. You would need their phone. You would need their ID. You would need their bank cards so that you could slowly transfer funds. So if money was not the motive, what's the motive? If the ransom note is not real, if money's not the motive, what is the motive? Then people thought, maybe this is a robbery gone wrong. So this person came to the door and they thought, okay, this is an elderly woman who lives alone and she's probably sleeping at night, and it has been reported that she wears hearing aids. So when she takes off her hearing aids, her hearing is going to be much less than maybe like a younger person in their 30s who has dogs and lives with a whole family of people. Like, it could be different. So maybe this is the perfect house. And a lot of elderly people have a lot more valuables in terms of like heirloom jewelry. I think younger people, a lot of experts were saying when you target a house with a lot of young families, you have a lot of electronics that are harder to sell. When you target older people, you're talking about gold. You're talking about jewelry, necklaces, diamonds. Like, you get a lot more of that. That's easier to sell in the market. So maybe she's targeted because she's an elderly woman who lives alone in this isolated part of town. So then you go and you try to do a home invasion at night, but maybe she wakes up. But the question is, Why not just run out then? Because trying to rob someone, an elderly woman, of her jewelry is very different from kidnapping someone.
Yeah.
Like those don't even correlate. Like it's very hard to escalate that way unless you retaliate and perhaps you harm Nancy and she passes away at the scene and now you're removing her body because of DNA or something of that sort. And I know that these sound really grim, but I think the only reason that people are even talking about some of these theories now is that Savannah's newest videos that she's uploaded, it seems like the family have somewhat come to terms with that Nancy might not be out there alive. And I do think, you know, people just don't understand. And I think that brings a lot of fear, especially with a case like this, because, I mean, a lot of other times a lot of other crimes, you can see why things unfolded. Not that it's justified, but I think everyone's scared for their moms.
We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone. She may have already gone home to the Lord that she loves. And if this is what is to be, then we will accept it.
So then the next theory is, okay, well, maybe it's Nancy was harmed and so her body needed to be removed from the scene. Or other people are saying, well, maybe she pulled down the mask or pulled off the mask of whoever was robbing her and recognized this person. Maybe she's like, this is my housekeeper's son that I met once, you know? And I'm just saying housekeeper because it seems like the term that everyone is using. It could be a caretaker, though it's not verified that she had a live-in caretaker or a regular caretaker. It could be the pool guy. I'm just saying, it could just be someone, right, that has access to her home. But another thing is, if this is a robbery gone wrong, and these people have probably been scoping out her schedule and her routine in her house, why not just target the house when she was gone for so many hours at her daughter's house, just previously that night? So then there was some people arguing, well, no, because it was bright outside, so if they broke into the house when it's bright, there's more of a chance that people would see them. But Nancy didn't get back home until like 9:50 p.m. There's still a few hours of darkness that they could have gone in.
Yeah.
And another thing is, why is the backpack so damn full? If you're committing a robbery and you're trying to take valuables, would you bring a full backpack?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
There are some people saying maybe the backpack is full of duffel bags that are empty, that you undo and then you fill it with valuables. Other people are saying maybe it could contain something darker like a tarp, because Nancy's blood does stop in the front porch area. So it's not like a trail of blood that leads to a vehicle. Now, another thing with the blood, though, is that a lot of people have been commenting, when you're 84, you can bleed very easily. If you grab someone's wrist at 84 and yank it, their skin is really thin. So that could be the blood. It doesn't necessarily mean that some big traumatic event had happened. It's just, I mean, there's questions and no answers. I know you look confused and I don't have answers. No one has answers. It's just question after question. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe this theory is ruled out, but then it just leads to 10 more questions. So now the question is, did Rio Rico Man know someone who knew the Guthries and knew that Nancy lived alone and likely had valuables? Could he be the one in the doorbell footage? Which, side note about this doorbell footage, they did not have this footage for a very long time in the investigation. It's not like Nancy goes missing and this is the first thing that's released. When police get to the scene, Nancy's doorbell camera was ripped off. I believe to this day it has yet to be recovered. Additionally, Nancy did not have a Google Nest subscription. So she could view the front door camera live, but it did not save and log the video. It would write over itself.
So how did they get the footage?
They had to reach out to Google Nest and see if Google would somehow get that footage. And side note, it is believed that the FBI had a lot of pull in this. And the sheriff has talked about how they were pleading with Google. And I mean, the last case that we talked about, the Krug family case, these tech companies do not like to give out information of their customers unless they're really like their hand is on the stove. And it's very interesting because a lot of people have a lot of feelings about this. The fact that the FBI could get Google to do this, I think there is a lot of resentment of why don't you do this in most cases then? Because if you can do it, think of all the cases that could have been solved.
But then that also comes into the when is your camera private, right? FBI can come in and pull the footage.
Yeah. But I think the sentiment is more so, I think as the investigation goes on further and the news coverage stays strong, which I think it's good that it is staying strong because I think it'll probably help bring Nancy home sooner. I think there is some resentment that a lot of people feel that their missing loved ones did not get any attention, did not get these types of resources. So I think that's where the anger is coming from.
Yeah.
So they were able to get this footage 10 days later, and the FBI tweeted the footage. Kash Patel just tweeted the footage.
Really?
Yeah, and so that's why we have the footage.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also there was a lot of questions of like, oh, I didn't know if you were not recording on Google Nest that Google somehow still has that. Yeah. So there was a lot of like conversation about this footage.
So these footages are always stored somewhere.
Yeah. But I mean, the sheriff said that Google was working really hard. I don't know what they're doing. They made it seem like they had to like unpeel the code. I don't know. He was making it sound like that. And then now there's speculations that someone was using a Wi-Fi jammer. So there were reports of internet outages in that area. And the suspect, like the person in the doorbell camera, looks like they're holding some sort of jammer at one point. So people are wondering if it was like a signal jammer that was being used. A signal jammer would indicate a higher level crime, a much more professional crime.
To prevent someone using their cell phone, calling the cops, or
to disable the security systems.
But then he's like just walking up to the doorbell camera and just ripped it off the wall.
Yeah. So a lot of people thought it could be the cartels that are doing this.
What?
Yeah. And I just don't know why. I think the cartel conspiracy in theory came from the fact that Nancy needs certain medications and because Arizona is pretty close to the border. I think that's about it. I think there was like a tip that maybe she was in Mexico. I don't think that tip was verified. It seems like the authorities have spoken to Mexican authorities and it does not seem like she is in Mexico, at least as of right now. And just the crime does not speak like cartel. Cartels typically, when they're in the United States, they like to run under the radar. I mean, this is like their business. And when they want to take someone out, usually it's someone involved in the cartel. It's someone that's associated, and they're really professional. So people are saying, like, if a cartel is coming up to your Google Nest, your camera's getting spray painted before you can even see their face. And everyone is like, is this an amateur? Is this not an amateur? And then once you say it's an amateur, people are like, well, they haven't been caught, so is it not an amateur? Nobody knows. So what does Rio Rico Man have anything to do with this, and why is he detained? Rio's mom is insistent with authorities and later with the media that her son-in-law, Rio Rico Man, has nothing to do with this. In fact, he was at home Saturday and Sunday, the day that Nancy was taken. He was at home an hour away in Rio Rico. On top of that, he knows nothing about Bitcoin, so she's asked, did he ever say anything about Nancy? Nothing. We never, like I told the FBI, the investigator, if I knew anything about her, I said I saw her on Facebook, but I didn't read what was going on with her because I didn't know her and I didn't have like the right to. I mean, I didn't want to read the story. I just go over, keep on going, on my phone because I don't know her. They're just invading my property. I told them they're going in and out of my house, taking a lot of pictures and everything. I mean, like I told them we're not hiding anything. I gave them permission. You can go and search. There's nothing in my house. You won't find anything because we don't have nothing to hide. They broke in my house without a warrant or nothing. They broke my door. They went in my house. My son was playing on Nintendo. He had his headphones on. They got him, put him in handcuffs and took him outside.
This is not Rio.
No. Rio is her son-in-law. This is her son.
Actually,
yeah.
Right.
And then Rio was out. He got stopped at a traffic stop with her daughter.
Rio's wife. And Rio's wife.
And after 5 hours of being detained, Rio Rico Man is released. And he does a few interviews where he states the whole thing was just bizarre. He says he has no idea how he even got involved in all of this. It just wrapped up in this. He states, right now, all I know is that they showed my in-law a picture of somebody wearing a mask or something, and they supposedly look like my eyes.
That's insane.
He says he was honest with authorities. I told them I work in Tucson for GLS, which is a delivery service. So he does DoorDash and GLS. I might have delivered a package to her house, but I never kidnapped anybody. He says being detained was terrifying. I felt like I was being kidnapped. They didn't tell me anything in the beginning. They held me against my will. They didn't even read me my rights until 2 hours later. He says he kept telling them he's not involved. And he thought, quote, what the fuck am I doing here? I didn't do anything, to be honest. I'm innocent. I hope they get the suspect because I'm not it. And they better do a better job and find the suspect so that they can clear my name. I'm done. He says he wasn't given a proper reason why authorities thought it could be him. He has an attorney now who has come out to state that his life has been altered, quote, and now they're living day to day. They're living in fear. So the first thing I'd like to see is Sheriff Nanos and the Pima County Sheriff's Office come forward and say, Rio, this was a mistake. Rio is not a person of interest. He's not an investigative lead. We messed up. We need to see some accountability, obviously.
So this was from the state?
Yes.
Wasn't feds?
Or at least it doesn't seem like they were involved in the detainment. I don't know if they okayed it, if they were in the know, but Rio has not been formally nor publicly cleared by the sheriff or the FBI as of right now. So he could still be involved. There's just not enough for an arrest, or he could not be involved at all, which is what more people are leaning towards.
So this is all we know.
Yeah. And then February 13th, a SWAT operation is executed and another man is detained. He's pulled over in a gray Range Rover, handcuffed, and placed in the back of a police car. His Range Rover is then covered with a tarp. So a lot of people thought that he died, like he self-exited. There was like a rumor going around, but they just used the tarp so that they can open the trunk, and I don't know if they're looking for someone, but they don't want the public to see whatever they find. So it seems like a very serious operation. This is not like a little search and stop or traffic stop. Like he got swatted. His 77-year-old mother was also detained, and we'll call him Range. He lives close to Nancy. He has a significant criminal history, possession, distribution, and fleeing law enforcement. The Range Rover is then taken in to be processed by authorities. It has since been released back to him, which leads netizens to believe that they got the wrong guy because they detained him and then released him. He hasn't been formally cleared. He hasn't been arrested. But because of the intense SWAT presence, everyone thought that this would be like a more fruitful arrest. But it wasn't. And so now netizens are confused. Some of them are wondering online, quote, are they just randomly detaining and questioning people at this point? Like anybody who matches the physical description is being detained now a month after the event? Now, because so much time has passed, netizens have found another lead to grasp onto, which is the neighbor theory. There is a neighbor that lives nearby. We'll call him Neighbor Man. He lives, according to him, 15 minutes away. And it's odd because he has been driving to Nancy's house, nearby Nancy Guthrie's house, to participate in interviews of the locals. People have started comparing his face to the masked man on the doorbell footage, and they think that it looks like him, which, I mean, you can't really tell. Also, every time he does an interview, a press interview, he's wearing sunglasses. And so everyone's like, we want to see your eyeballs because we only really see the doorman's face eyeballs. He's just a
Why
weird
would
guy.
he like his interview is really off?
Yeah, he just starts talking about and comparing the case to bombings, other major crimes. He speaks about law enforcement ranting at the fact that they're at basketball games, He's asked about what he thinks happened, and he goes on a whole tirade about pointing the finger at Tommaso. He thinks it's Tommaso.
I have a premonition that the son-in-law has something to do with it. Not sure exactly what.
And he's just, okay, one interview, no one said anything. But he shows up in a lot of interviews, like random segments with random creators, random TikTokers, random news anchors, he's everywhere. And so everyone's like, why is he inserting himself into this investigation? One comment just reads, my gut is telling me it's you. I mean, he is an very odd individual. Maybe he thinks this is his 5 seconds in the limelight. I don't know, but not any of this is particularly damning, but it is very weird. There is also another picture where he's wearing this very distinct ring. It looks like a high school ring, those like
graduation ring.
Yes. And in the gloved photo of the doorbell camera, when he covers his hand, it looks like there's some sort of crease that could indicate either a crease or a bigger ring. That's not like a wedding band. So people think that's odd. And that's really it. That's all we have. We don't really have anything else. Everything else are more speculations, more rumors, more unauthenticated information. There's also conspiracies about why the FBI would not take over this case if it's a kidnapping. So there's a few triggers that a case has to hit in order for it to be in FBI jurisdiction. So you have to have a victim that's transported across state lines, or an offender who uses interstate commerce like mail, phone, and internet, which happened in this case, or a crime on federal property, or like a federal agent.
What do you mean mail, phone, and internet?
I guess if you commit some sort of like internet crime. And only one of these triggers has to be triggered in order for the FBI to be able to step in. But it's not a situation where they can just force their hand and say, this is our case now. And it's usually not the best for them to do that because they do need help from local law enforcement as well. So it is still Pima County Sheriff that is heading this case, but people just don't like that. People don't think that they're competent. But then, you have arguments on the internet that's like, I don't know, are the FBI that competent these days? It's just no one knows anything. I mean, the authorities don't even know if it's one person, two people, three people, multiple people. If caught, they might face the death penalty because that is what Trump has been hinting at. Savannah Guthrie has gone back to New York. She actually just recently visited the Today Show. She wasn't on air or anything. She just went to go see her colleagues. And there are pictures, like paparazzi pictures through the windows, and she seems really emotional. But it seems like the investigation is still ongoing. The FBI has pulled a lot of their personnel. There's way less agents present in investigating.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and the entire road leading up to Nancy Guthrie's house has been sectioned off. So you cannot park your SUV, as like a media station, Legacy Media was doing that. You cannot set up a tent to film like the 5 o'clock news. You cannot pose for social media pictures in front of it, right? So it's been...
What was that about? You were saying someone was posing?
Yeah, I think she's a social media content creator who wanted a thumbnail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are starting to lose sympathy in a way. Some comments read, my sister has been missing since 1979. Nobody ever cared for her. So I think they're getting frustrated the more the authorities are trying and failing, because it just feels like massive resources but no results. So it's not like people are upset that they're trying to find Nancy. I think it's more so, do you guys know what you're doing? Or you guys like, it just feels like a mess. And you're spending so much resources and allocating so much personnel, and are you doing okay? Like, is it worth it? Like, are you getting what you're doing? Like, it just seems so unorganized. Other people are commenting, I wish y'all cared more about other missing people like y'all do this woman. Others are just saying the authorities are being so dumb. They say, quote, we can take out other countries' presidents in hours in the middle of the night, but we can't find Nancy Guthrie. Stop it. Others are commenting, distraction case to deflect from the files. Which we're going to get into all of that in a separate episode, because all of the conspiracies that people have of what this case could be covering up. Now, I don't know if there's a cover up. I will note that sometimes people get personally involved in things. Like, I imagine if somebody that I personally knew was affected by something, I would naturally talk about it more. And people are speculating that maybe it's because Savannah Guthrie is a peer amongst all the people reporting on this case. And so while maybe the public also wants reporting on other cases and other things going on, they personally want to stay invested in this case. But I don't know how much that makes sense when you're working for like a big media corporation who typically don't care who your friends are. So I don't know. And I'm, again, not saying that this case does not deserve coverage or does not deserve to stay in the headlines as long as it has. It's just, I think when it's a one-off situation where you don't get this type of treatment for most missing persons cases, people are wondering what's going on. And with everything going on in the US, I mean, there's so much going on. So little has happened that now the conversation is about the conversation. This is what happened with the Sean Combs case. Every time there was like a lull in the case where not as explosive things were coming out during the trial days, anytime we would go, because we would monitor what everyone was talking, not monitor, but like, see what everyone is talking about and see what questions people had, it started turning into, look at the people that are covering the case. So that's what's happening here. So a lot of legacy media is now covering social media coverage of the case.
Earlier, you were saying that Savannah and them, they have changed their message since then.
Yeah, I mean, they still want to bring their mother home. Savannah has put up a $1 million reward. She's also donated $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I don't know, maybe she was seeing a lot of the conversations online, or maybe this led her to do something so incredible and gracious, right? But yeah, so that's where we are. There's $1 million reward and no one seems to still know anything. Again, just to make it clear, the family has been officially cleared by the sheriff's office. And I know that especially when you read about a lot of crime cases, you do think it's always closest to the victim, like they must know something or they must be involved. But I think in a case like this where it's getting that much coverage and that much attention, we just have to hope that the authorities are doing the right thing. And I think to point the finger at a relative without much substantial information is pretty reckless. So I hope that I was able to comprehensively give you an overview of the conversation. But again, just to make it so abundantly clear, the family has been cleared. So with that being said, that is it for today's episode. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in the next one. Be safe.